Advisory Board. Welcome to the Dole Institute of Politics, and thank you for attending tonight's presentation. The Dole Student Advisory Board is composed of KU students committed to the work of the Dole Institute. We attend regular meetings, assist in events like this, and plan an SAB-sponsored program every semester. Members of the SAB receive great opportunities to network with our special guests. If you are a student and would like to join, please contact us at the Dole Institute. The Dole Institute would like to hear from you. If you enjoy tonight's program, please let us know by contacting us on Facebook, Twitter, or through our website email. If you prefer to write us a note, there will be a notepad and pens on a table as you exit the building. Your attendance and feedback help shape future programming. Before we begin tonight, I'd like to remind you to please turn off your cell phones. After the interview, we will have some time for audience questions and answers. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and a student helper with a microphone will come to you. Please just ask one brief question. Tonight, we will be hearing from you, 3 KU students who are currently studying abroad. So, Andrew Toff. He graduated from the University of Kansas in the spring of 2012 with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering. The recipient of Fulbright Scholarship, Toff is currently studying environmental engineering and technology management at the Hamburg Technical University in Hamburg, Germany. As a high school student, Toff spent a year in Lawrence, sister city, Uten, Germany, as an intern for various companies, including a bank, a wastewater treatment plant, and an opera festival. And then we have Andrew Hodgson, worked at the Dole Institute from 2008 to 2011. He received a BA in political science and international studies in 2009, following by a master's in political science, specializing in Chinese foreign policy and international environmental policy from the University of Kansas. He is currently teaching English at the University of China. Quinn Reed is the Outreach and Diversity Student Coordinator at the Dole Institute, a member of the Student Advisory Board, and a junior at KU working on degrees in both politics and economics. He is currently studying this semester at the University of Exeter, a leading public research university ranked number 7 in the United Kingdom, recently named University of the Year by the 7 Times of London. He chose this semester to study abroad to give a foreign perspective on the U.S. presidential elections. Tonight's program will be hosted by Lexi Clark. Lexi is a coordinator of the Dole Institute Student Advisory Board. She is a senior studying political science and international studies here at KU. So give it up for Lexi Clark.
Okay, I need the step stool because I'm a little shorter than she is. Welcome to tonight's program. My name is Lexi Clark, and for myself and many other college students, this year is the first time that we've had the opportunity to participate in a presidential election. We spent a lot of time hearing the perspectives of various political pundits, news resources, and time in conversation with professors and classmates to better understand and analyze what these campaigns mean. However, one angle that we've not had the opportunity to investigate is that of American students watching the campaign from overseas, as well as foreign students of our generation who pay attention to American politics. So tonight, through Skype conversations as well as recorded interviews, our goal is to investigate what the 2012 presidential election looks like from the outside looking in. Our first guest tonight is Andrew Toth, a 2012 graduate joining us from Hamburg Technical University in Germany. Can you hear us, Andrew?
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm terrific. Thanks for having me.
What time is it there?
It's 2:41.
In the morning, okay. I will ask you, and as well as Andrew Hodgson and Quinn Reed, the same 3 questions so we can kind of compare what the experiences are in these different countries. First, I would like to ask you, how much coverage would you say has the 2012 U.S. presidential campaign had in Germany?
I'd say it's had quite a bit. I didn't expect to see as many articles as I have seen in the newspapers. When riding on the metro, for example, there's little TVs and you'll see news blurbs about Mitt Romney or about Obama and what they're doing in their campaigns. Obviously, it's not the same as in the States with the almost hourly updates of what these guys are doing, but almost daily you'll see some sort of article about the major issues that are at hand in the campaigns. So I was pretty impressed to see quite a bit of coverage, quite a bit of interest here in Germany.
What, if any, would you say how is it different to watch a presidential campaign as an American in a foreign country?
Well, for one, there's not really quite as much small stuff in terms of the news coverage you see. So, I mean, it's not quite as annoying, I guess, when it comes right down to it. There's, in the news and the coverage that I see, I don't watch TV, but in the papers, there's mostly just the big issues. Quite a few Germans follow the campaigns, but I wouldn't say they go so far as to watch the debates. That's kind of a big time investment for someone who's not going to vote in the election. But most of the news is sort of filtered. Like with the debates, the first debate, the big news item was Romney won the debate. There weren't many details discussed. It was just that, and then people could go and take from that what they would. And then the next debate, which was just last night, I guess. So Obama won the debate. That's like the big news item, but it's not quite as in detail, I suppose, here as it is in the States. So it's a little different in that respect.
Do you personally continue to follow U.S. politics closely?
Sure. I mean, the first presidential debate, I watched the first half hour, but then I couldn't watch anymore. It was too boring. And the second one I just watched today because it was quite a bit more interesting and feisty. But I follow politics, American politics here from a distance. It's kind of tough because, I mean, Germans in general are much more sort of politically conscious. So they've got people here talk about politics a lot more than in the States. I would say the average person is much better educated in terms of keeping up on the news and keeping up in the politics here in their own country than the average person in the United States. And so I try to keep up on politics here too, which obviously sort of limits my ability to see all the stuff going on in the States.
And then I have one more question before we see if anybody in the audience has a question. Has being in Germany during a presidential election changed your view of American politics at all?
I would say that being in Germany and being in Europe in general has sort of put into perspective how far to the right our entire political spectrum is. When we talk about some law or some candidate being especially liberal, that person is probably quite center here on the spectrum here in Germany of conservative to liberal. If we talk about someone in the States being conservative, I mean, they're totally off the charts conservative here. That sort of conservatism doesn't even exist here. I mean, when it comes to gun laws and government, the role of government in your everyday life, I mean, it's so extreme in terms of, well, you can have a gun in the States and you can't here, and there's a lot more social programs here that has the effect of there's a lot more government in your everyday life, and you notice it here. It's not a bad thing, but it means the whole spectrum of politics has shifted, and so yeah, it kind of puts into perspective how, I guess, conservative as an entire nation we are with respect to Europe, which is another what we call Western society. So you would think it would be similar, but I'd say it's quite different in that respect.
Does anybody in the audience have a question for Andrew? He's in Germany. Julia?
You mentioned that some of the German students know more about, like, they know at least some about American politics. Do you think that, because, like, I don't know anything about German politics, so do you think it's, I don't know, just how do you feel about that? Like, why do they know more about us than we do about them?
I asked someone that the other day, and she replied, like, why would you care about, our politics? Here in Germany, you're right in the middle of Europe. You've got France and Austria and Switzerland and Holland and Denmark and Poland and Czech Republic and all of these people, all of these countries right around. And what they do politically matters to Germany because they're all part of the European Union. And some now you've got laws being passed on this entire European Union scale. So it's important for them to be conscious of what is going on in the other countries around them politically, and that extends to the United States because what the United States does also plays a great role in what Germany does. Let's talk about military presence in Afghanistan or in Iraq. Now, Germany's never sent any soldiers to Iraq, but they have several thousand soldiers in Afghanistan, and that's important to Germans to know that they are sending soldiers, into another nation. For them, they see America as, I guess, sort of the world police is how it's carried out in the media here, and that's seen really negatively, I think, overall. In general, it's sort of, I get the impression that people here think generally, what is the U.S. doing in all these other countries? I mean, it's not the U.S.'s business to be in these other countries. And so, however, Germany is an ally to the U.S. And so when the U.S. goes and puts soldiers in another country, Germany is going to probably support them, and that's important to the citizens because they don't like that. I think generally the answer to your question is that what we do matters to them. Okay, so if Germany changes some laws, does it matter to us? I don't know if we notice in the States.
Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I actually. Hello? Can you hear me? Thank you. Yeah, I had a question. On the topic of foreign policy, are Germans in general, and I guess Europeans, from your perspective, are they disappointed in Obama's continuation of a lot of Bush's policies that were implemented? Because I know the war in Iraq was very unfavorable, and then now, is there any media narrative about drone warfare or any other interventionist policies being sponsored by the Obama administration?
Just recently, there's been some hype in the media about the drone missiles being used in Pakistan, for example. I think recent demonstrations in Pakistan have brought that to light in the media, but I was really surprised to find that even here in Europe, similar to the U.S., there's virtually no media coverage of that issue. I mean, relative to the seriousness of the issue and relative to just how important it is for some people, like the people dying, from these attacks, there's not much coverage, and to me that's amazing. And I think that Germans are just starting to sort of open their eyes to that. But you asked about their perspective of, or their opinion of Obama's carrying on some Bush policies, and I think that most Germans would rather see Obama pull our soldiers out of the Middle East. However, I heard recently that when Obama was elected in 2008, he had an 82% approval rating here in Germany. 4 years later, that sunk dramatically to 78%. So, I mean, he's still really popular. Overall, he's still quite popular here. And in fact, compared to Romney, I mean, nobody really believes that Romney's going to get elected here. You know, I've had several instances where, okay, two, but to me it's important. These people have physically grabbed me and said, Andrew, you got to tell me Romney can't be elected. You got to tell me this is not possible. And you know, it's not impossible. And so you tell them that, and they're so incredulous. They can't believe, because they see Romney as sort of another George Bush, and whether that's true or not, it's their perspective. It's what they are reading in the media, and they can't, they weren't very fond of George Bush, and so they wouldn't. They're not quick to believe that we would just after 4 years of Bush elect another Bush. In their perspective, that's kind of how they see it.
And then one more question for Andrew before we move on. Christina?
Do you think there's a large difference between the role that the media plays when it comes to politics in Germany as compared to the United States?
Could you hear that?
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe in the sense that we in the United States have these 24-hour news coverage stations. There's news on a TV here, but there's not 24-hour news media. That's something that has fortunately not hit Germany. Each publication, so each newspaper is known to have a certain leaning, just like in the States with the New York Times or Rush Limbaugh. Okay, that's an extreme example, but it's not to the degree that people, have this. It's not to the degree that the media has to come up with stuff to cover because they're on 24/7. I mean, that has, I think, a great impact in the United States, to the point where we become really worried about non-existent issues because they had to make news of something. But in that respect, it's a little tamer here, the effect that the media has.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for Skyping in with us tonight. And before you go, we have a video of you interviewing one of your friends, and I was wondering if you could introduce her and that video for us before we switch over to it.
Sure, absolutely. This is an interview with Linda Oldenburg. I think she's Clarissa Unger's best friend. Some of you might know Clarissa. She, I hope, is there. Hey, Clarissa, if you're there. And also, hey from Linda.
She just said hi to you.
She said she'll watch this online when it's posted. Linda's a graduate from Trinity College in Ireland, a classmate of Clarissa. She studied, she received her Master of Science in Comparative European Politics from Trinity just, I guess, this year. And now she's working as a software consultant. She's from Hamburg and works here in Hamburg and throughout Germany. And so I was fortunate to be able to interview her. And keep in mind, I mean, she is someone who's obviously very knowledgeable, having studied politics, and therefore is going to be quite articulate in her opinions and her ability to voice her opinions. But I don't think that she's very radically different from Germans in general when it comes right down to it, if you can generalize like that. So yeah, I enjoyed interviewing her. I think you will enjoy watching it as well.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Good night.
So what issues, if any, are most important to you in American politics?
I think the most important discussion for me is how Americans discuss the question of how big of a role the the government of the United States should have, and which impact the politics should have on the social policy and the social life every individual has.
So how much role do you think the government should play in your daily life?
I think it's very hard for a German to imagine that the government has such a small role and such a small influence in the daily life as it is in the US. Because in Germany I feel the government has a lot of influence on our daily lives. I think one of the most the aspects or like the areas in our daily life where you see it most is the social area, because I think the US and Germany, we have different concepts of how you have the chance to become rich. I think in the US you have the idea of when you work harder you can make it. I think we don't have that in Germany. I think, yeah, in the first place, like on one hand we think if you work harder you can make it, but on the other hand it doesn't mean when you didn't make it that you didn't work hard. I think the Germans have the concept of if you didn't make it, there were a lot of other things that were out of your control that put you in that situation. So the government tries to find a solution to make those people feel better in their lives. So, yeah.
Do you think that students in Germany pay attention to American politics?
Well, I think so, yeah. And I think that for two reasons. I think the first and probably one of the biggest reasons is that the Germans and the Americans still have a really big historical connection. I mean, it's ages ago that the Second World War ended, but I feel that like older people in Germany, they still have this connection to the US because they feel you saved us. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, especially students, nowadays follow the American politics, because it's very interesting to see how one of our, let's call them allies, or like the ones that saved us, like how the politics is going on in the US and like how everything is working out in your country. I think that's one of the reasons. And I think the second reason is more related to things that go on in the world nowadays, because I feel that the structure, I don't know if you can say that, but like the structure of the world changes. I mean, China gets more important and there are other countries like Brazil, or I don't know, I mean, it's getting important with Russia again, I feel. And when I think about the US, like in 10 or 20 years, what's going on in the US then, I'm personally really interested if the US is losing its power that it had like in the last couple of years, like let's say since the Second World War, because the US had like a very powerful role in the world, and it tried to play the role of a world police. I feel like that's how we call it in Germany, that you played the world police. And I think there are a lot of people that think it's gonna end, like the whole era of the US as this big part and the big player in world politics. I think we all feel that it's gonna end because of all the other countries, and like, I mean, it's getting important what the Europeans are going to do with all our own problems, but we are probably interested in American politics because sometimes I feel we want to see the US fail with all its politics and all the, I don't know how I should put it, but with all the things that you did during the last year's wars and so on. So it's going to be interesting which role the US will have in 10 to 20 years and which role the Europeans will have and which role other countries will have. So that's why I follow American politics, to see if you're gonna fail or not.
Do students in Germany feel as if the outcome of the US presidential election will have an impact on them?
I think lots of them do. Because especially, like, probably not especially in this election, but like I feel this election is maybe this election between good and evil, I don't know, from my opinion, because like I see that Obama may not had the chance to, or like did not have the chance to fulfill all his promises. I totally see that, and I see that the Americans, or like some of them who voted for Obama, might be disappointed. But I think when you see the other option, like which would be Mitt Romney in this case, you have to fear that he's gonna lead the failure of the US, because all the things that I hear or read or see on television, everything seems so, how can I say it, far apart, far away from everything individuals in your country would need to live a really good life, or like a really good daily life. Yeah, I don't know. I think every student in Germany should really care about this election, because I think we all have to ask ourselves what we really stand for, and I think Obama and Mitt Romney have very, very different options and very different ideas of individuals and the role of individuals in a society.
But how does the impact of the election in the States play a role here in Germany to young people? What do you feel, what do students in Germany think is the impact it has on them here or in Europe?
Ich muss es ausmachen.
Okay, next we have a video from Andrew Hodgson, who videotaped his own opinions as well as that of two of his students. He worked with us here at the Dole Institute from 2008 to 2011. He wasn't able to join us live tonight because right this moment he is teaching his freshman English class at a University of Economics in the Hebei province in China.
Okay, I'm joined now by two of my good friends and students at the university, Jennifer and Tina, and they are both seniors studying accounting. So thank you for joining me today. So do you think that students in China pay attention to American politics?
Yes, especially the boys do. We read news on the internet and watch TV for the information of American politics.
Yes, I agree, because America is a big economic country, and the policy of America has a great influence on the world.
Okay, so do students in China feel like the outcome of the US election will have an impact on them?
Yes, of course, although there's not a big difference between Obama and Romney. Romney may be more confrontational as what he said.
Okay.
Well, Obama is a little friendly, I think.
All right. So what are the most important issues for you concerning American politics?
Well, I think the war is what I concern, like Iraq war and the Syria war, and especially the conflict between China and Japan about Diaoyu Island recently.
Yeah, I think the American foreign policy is most important. As we all know, China is playing a more and more important role in the world, and the American policy is not so friendly towards China. And I hope the policy can be more positive, then both of the countries can develop peacefully.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll say goodbye.
Bye.
And we should have a video of Andrew himself speaking.
Hi, this is Andrew Hodson, and I'm coming. Hi, this is Andrew Hodson, and I'm coming to you from Shijiazhuang University of Economics in Hebei Province, China. I'm a 2009 and 2011 graduate from the University of Kansas, where I received my bachelor's and master's degrees in political science. I first just want to say hi to all my friends at the Dole Institute, and I'm sorry I couldn't join you live. Unfortunately, I will be teaching my freshman English class while you are holding the program. So just a few thoughts that I have to share with you. First, how much campaign coverage has the 2012 presidential campaign had in your host country or in China? And it actually receives a fair bit of coverage. A lot of that focuses on issues that are specifically of interest to people in China, especially trade and the comments that the candidates have made on the issue of trade with China, such as Mitt Romney's promise to label China as a currency manipulator, or President Obama's actions that prevented a Chinese company from buying a wind farm in the United States. So it definitely gets a fair bit of attention, and I'd also say that most Chinese people are far more aware of American politics than the average American is of Chinese politics. I could ask my entire freshman English class, who is the President of America? And I'm pretty sure they could probably all tell me, but I doubt as many Americans could name the president of China or are aware of the fact that China will be going a once-in-a-decade leadership transition just following the U.S. presidential elections. So in what way is it different to watch a presidential campaign in a different country? I think the nicest thing for me is I don't have to endure the endless number of presidential campaign ads, but besides that, there aren't a lot of major differences because of the internet and my ability to access news and video. I can really keep up with the campaign and what's going on as much as I want to. Although maybe the biggest difference, or another big difference, is the fact that in past elections I've been more involved, volunteering or working with campaigns, and that's obviously not something I'm able to do while I'm in China. So has being in a different country during a presidential election changed your view of American politics? I don't know that it's necessarily changed my view of American politics, but it has made me more aware of how people in other countries view American politics, or how people in China might view American politics. And as I mentioned before, they're concerned with more specific issues that might not be on the radar of many Americans. Some Chinese people are concerned about how America will respond to their numerous territorial disagreements with other Asian countries, such as the current dispute with Japan over the, as they're known in China, Diaoyu Islands. So I think that's really interesting for me as someone from America who studied China and studied Chinese politics, is being here during an election has allowed me to understand the Chinese perspective a little bit better. But also, as I mentioned before, I have the opportunity to be here during an important leadership change in China, where they will select the new head of the Communist Party, who will eventually become president of the country, and the Politburo Standing Committee, who essentially, it's a currently 9, possibly 7-member body that makes the decisions about laws in China on a day-to-day basis. So that's been really interesting for me to observe and compare and contrast with what's going on in the United States. So there are some positive elements. I don't have to watch all the campaign ads, but I also miss out on some of the interaction and participation that I might be able to have while I'm in America. So just thank you to everyone at the Dole Institute for this opportunity to make a little contribution, and I look forward to seeing what people in other countries have to say and how their experiences compare to mine.
Great, and that was Andrew Hodgson, and our final guest of the evening is Quinn Reed. We need to get him pulled up on Skype. Quinn is taking a break from his duties here as the Outreach and Diversity Student Coordinator to spend a semester at the University of Exeter in Great Britain. Let's see if we can get him on Skype. Quinn? Hi, Quinn, how are you? Can you hear us? Oh, but we can't hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay. Thank you so much for Skyping in with us tonight. Is it 2 o'clock in the morning there, right?
Yeah, 2:12 a.m. right now.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for staying up with us tonight. I wanted to ask you the 3 questions that we've asked Andrew Hodgson and Andrew Toth. And then you said that you've spent time talking to your classmates over at Exeter, and so that you can kind of give us a feel about what they feel about American politics in this campaign season. Does that sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
Great. So first of all, how much coverage would you say has the 2012 presidential campaign in the United States had in England?
It's actually received a lot of attention. The UK, I think, is almost more interested in American politics than their own politics, at least from the interactions I have. Of course, that impression might be biased because they come up to me knowing I'm an American, and so they want to get my opinion. But I would say that because of the nature of our campaigns as opposed to theirs, I think the UK system is a lot drier in their presidential runs, so they like the sport of it, the games of it. There's a lot more drama in our presidential elections to pay attention to. So,
what way would you say that it's different for you as an American to watch the presidential campaign in a foreign country?
It's weird not hearing the 24-hour spin constantly. When I'm at home, you're inundated with the 24-hour cable news, and I can't help but watch it, even though I don't always like it. But here, yeah, you don't get that. So it's more people talking about it, reading, newspaper articles. I try and, stay up late and watch the debates when I can. But it's definitely a little bit of a challenge. Because, like last night, it was hard to stay up until 3 a.m. when I had a class early this morning. So,
has being in a different country during the presidential election changed your view of American politics at all?
I would say it has a little. One of the things, I think we often do in American political discourse is talk about, countries monolithically, and like whenever I've been in my American politics class over here with students from China, and they play like videos of the presidential debates and talking about China as if it's this evil force, and a lot of the other students are saying like, hey, it's like everyone in the country does not think the same way. Or whenever I'm in class and we hear things, about the United States, and it's like, well, this is the American policy, and it's like, yes, like there are some people in the United States who feel that way, but not everyone does. So I think being over here has made me more sensitive to parsing out the difference between individual views and like the nation's view as a whole, and how we often are quick to group everything together.
Do you think that the students in England pay much attention to American politics? I mean, outside of the classes that you said you're taking?
Right. My experience has been a little biased in that regards, because I'm taking two politics courses, and I'm taking two economics courses that also have kind of an international political focus. So most of the people that I've come in contact with, and the fact that I'm obviously super interested in politics myself, I've talked with a lot of people about politics. So it's hard for me to say, if people in general are, but all the people that I've come in contact with at least have some sort of opinion on it. So,
what do you think is the overall impression that students in England have of American politics?
I would say that they are curious about it. They think it's weird that we have campaigns that last so long. The idea of the perpetual campaign, I know, is something that has been the topic of a lot of discussion in some of my classes. The idea that we spend so much money on political campaigns and advertisement is something that a lot of people think is a little weird over here. There's definitely a sense that it's important. I think there's a general recognition that what happens in the American political system has a huge effect on everywhere in the world. You definitely get that sense. There's definitely a feeling of that when you're over here. So I would say in general they're interested, they're curious, and they're trying to figure out what we're doing. So.
And before we open up to questions from the audience, do you think students in England feel as if the outcome of the presidential election will have an impact on them?
I guess I kind of led into that with my last answer, but yes, there's definitely a sense that the American foreign policy sets foreign policy for a lot of other countries. A lot of other countries, act to it just because we're the global superpower. So there's definitely a feeling that these elections are important, and that they will play a critical, part in their lives going forward.
And okay, great. We can take about 3 questions from the audience. Does anybody have a question?
Hey, Quinn. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Is this
turned
working?
on?
Yeah, I think it's on.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, great. I was curious about, it's kind of a dual question. I'm not sure if you're familiar with UKIP, the United Kingdom Independent Party, but its founder, Nigel Farage, has been staunchly anti-Euro in a sense that he wanted to ensure that the United Kingdom was not going to take part in a role of a fiat currency as such. And so how does the United Kingdom feel about the fact that their partners are kind of, I think, sinking on their Euro ship? Their Euro experiment is kind of failing. How does the United Kingdom feel about the fact that they've stayed with the pound?
The idea of what's going on with the euro right now is very prevalent. Especially, I'm taking some economics courses, as I said, and this is a frequent topic of discussion. And I think it does tie into their view on American politics. I think they're very happy that they have not, joined the euro, and they're seeing the problems that many European countries are going through with currency, and seeing how countries like Germany and France, to a certain extent, who have stronger economies, are having to bail out countries like Greece and Portugal that have weaker economies. It's definitely something that people are talking about here across the board. So,
Another question? Sean?
What are the sources of American politics that you're seeing there? I mean, are you getting it through the internet, or are you getting it through their local news, or is it coming from their newspapers? Where are you getting information about it, and is it different? I mean, more than just the 24 hours, but is the cycle you see in America, but is it different from what we would see, or the kind of biased or partisan type news we see here?
The news that I'm getting is largely through the internet, but I'm also, because I'm taking an American politics course over here, so we discuss current articles in that course. So that's a source of news. We get free copies of several of the local papers here, and when you pick up an issue of The Guardian or The Times, sometimes it feels like you're picking up an American paper, because like today, for example, the front page on all of the big papers that I saw were pictures from the debate yesterday. So the U.S. presidential election is definitely a big part of the British news sources that I'm getting here. As far as biases, I would say that, at least by American ideological standards, the coverage tends to be more favorable towards Barack Obama, a little bit more critical of Mitt Romney, especially when it comes to social issues. But I think that reflects, the European attitudes on social issues tend to be a little bit more liberal. On economic issues, I feel like they're a little bit more even-handed on the coverage that I've seen. So, that's just my perception from the little box that I'm viewing things through. But
One more question before we let him go. No? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Quinn, for coming in, Skyping in with us tonight. I hope you're having a great time at Exeter, but I know all of us here at the Dole Institute are looking forward to having you seaside again next semester.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm glad we finally got the technical difficulties worked out, and it's nice to join you all, so thank you.
Yep, have a good night. In closing, I'd like to say thank you to the Dole Institute, particularly Lawrence Bush in the AV room, for all that he did to get the technological side of this all pulled together. I'd like to thank the Student Advisory Board for making tonight's event happen. And thank you all for coming. If you are a student and you would like to be part of programs like this, please feel free to contact us at dolesab@ku.edu or find us on Facebook and Twitter to figure out how to get involved. And with that, I will say thank you, drive safely, and good night.